Welcome to Easy English Listening Practice. Today we are diving into how to understand native speakers when they talk fast in everyday situations.
You will learn how to catch common phrases and respond naturally to your neighbors or friends while keeping the conversation flowing smoothly and feeling confident.
If you like the podcast and would like to continue watching our videos, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video.
I am so excited for this topic because so many people ask us how to just have a normal chat at the grocery store.
Exactly, because most people don't need to give a speech in a boardroom. They just want to be able to talk to neighbors.
Right. And sometimes the simplest words are the hardest to hear when someone says them really quickly while they are busy working.
We should start by talking about how we greet people in a casual way, because it is almost never the way you see.
That is true, because instead of saying, "How are you today?" most people will just say, "What is up?" or "How is it?"
It can be confusing if you are waiting for a long answer, but usually the other person just says "not much" and moves.
I noticed that when I talk to my neighbors, they often use short sentences that link together, which makes the rhythm sound fast.
Listening for that rhythm is a great skill to practice because it helps you predict what the next word might be even now.
Let us try a quick practice where I say something casual and you tell me what a normal person would actually say back.
That sounds perfect, because active listening is the best way to improve your fluency without feeling like you are studying for a test.
Okay, so imagine we are at a park and I see you with your coffee and I just say, "Nice morning for a walk."
I would probably just smile and say, "It sure is," or "definitely," to show I agree without needing to start a long conversation.
See, that is so simple, but many learners worry they need to say something perfect when a short, natural response is actually better.
We also use a lot of filler words that don't really mean anything, but they give us time to think about the words.
Words like or "you know" or "I mean" are everywhere in casual English, and hearing them helps you sound more like a native.
But you have to be careful not to use them too much, or it might sound a bit strange. So finding the balance is key.
I think we should talk about how to ask for help in a store, because that is a situation everyone faces when living.
Usually, you just catch someone's eye and say, "Excuse me, do you know where the milk is?" or something very direct and polite.
And the worker will usually point and say, "It is right over there in aisle 4, which is a great chance to practice.
Numbers and directions are so important for daily life, and the more you hear them, the easier it becomes to understand them without.
I remember when I was learning a new language, I would get so nervous about the small talk, but now I realize it.
One thing that really helps with listening practice is watching movies or shows that depict normal life rather than action movies where people shout all the time. When you hear characters talking about their day or their family, you get to hear the real flow of English that we use with our friends and neighbors every single day. It is much more useful to learn how to talk about a broken sink than it is to learn how to talk about a space mission.
That is a great point, because casual English is all about the things that happen to us in our real lives, like going to work or fixing things around the house. I always tell people to listen to how native speakers describe their weekend, because they usually use very simple past tense verbs and a lot of descriptive words that are easy to learn. If you could describe your Saturday morning to a friend, you are already doing a great job with your English.
We should also mention that it is okay to ask someone to repeat themselves if you didn't catch what they said the first time, because even native speakers do that. You can just say, "Sorry, I didn't catch that," or "Could you say that again, please?" and nobody will think it is weird at all. In fact, it shows that you are paying attention and that you really want to understand what the other person is sharing with you.
I agree. And another tip is to look at the person's face and body language, because so much of our communication happens without using any words at all. If someone is smiling and pointing at something, you can usually guess what they are talking about, even if you don't know every single vocabulary word they use. This helps take the pressure off your brain and allows you to relax and enjoy the conversation instead of worrying about a test.
Let us talk about some common errors that people make when they are trying to be too formal in a casual setting, like a backyard barbecue or a birthday party. Sometimes using very long words or perfect grammar can actually make you sound a bit stiff, and it might make the other person feel like they need to be formal too. It is much better to use simple words and focus on being friendly and open, because that is what builds real friendships.
Exactly. And speaking of parties, it is always good to have a few go-to questions that you can ask anyone to keep the conversation moving along nicely. Questions about their hobbies or what they like to do for fun are always a hit, because people love talking about the things they enjoy doing in their free time. You can ask something like, "Have you seen any good movies lately?" Or "Do you have any fun plans for the upcoming summer?"
Those are perfect questions because they are open-ended and they allow the other person to talk as much as they want while you practice your listening skills. You can just nod and say things like, "Oh, that sounds cool," or "Wow, I had no idea," to show that you are following along with their story. This makes you a great conversation partner, even if you are not saying many words yourself, because everyone loves a good listener.
I also want to encourage everyone to practice speaking out loud, even when they are alone at home, because it helps build the muscles in your mouth and jaw. You can repeat the phrases we use in this podcast, or even just talk to yourself about what you are doing while you are cooking dinner or cleaning. It might feel a little bit silly at first, but I promise it makes a huge difference in how natural you sound when you talk.
That is such a helpful strategy, and it really works because fluency is just as much about physical practice as it is about mental knowledge of the language rules. Think of it like learning to play an instrument or a sport, where you have to do the same motions over and over until they become automatic. The more you say these common English phrases, the more they will just pop into your head when you actually need them in a real conversation.
We should dive a bit deeper into how to handle mistakes, because I know many of our listeners get frustrated when they say the wrong word or forget a verb. The truth is that native speakers make mistakes all the time, and we often stop in the middle of a sentence to change what we are saying or to find a better word. It is just part of how humans communicate, and it doesn't mean that your English is bad or that you should stop trying.
That is so true, and if you make a mistake, you can just laugh it off and keep going. Because the most important thing is that the other person understands your idea. If you spend too much time worrying about one small error, you might miss the next 3 sentences that the other person says, and then you will be really lost. Just stay in the moment and focus on the big picture of the talk instead of the tiny details of the grammar.
I want to share a story about a time I was talking to a neighbor, and I completely forgot the word for shovel while we were talking about gardening. Instead of panicking, I just described it as the long metal thing you use to dig holes in the dirt, and my neighbor knew exactly what I meant. We both laughed, and the conversation continued without any problems at all, because we were focused on the garden and not on a vocabulary list.
That is a perfect example of how to use the words you already know to explain the words you don't know yet, which is a very advanced communication skill. It shows that you are flexible and that you can solve problems on the fly, which is exactly what real-life English is all about for everyone. You don't need a dictionary in your pocket if you have the confidence to describe things in a simple way using the basic English you already have.
Let us try another practice drill where we talk about a common daily routine like getting ready for work or going to the gym in the afternoon. I will start by describing my morning, and then you can add some details using casual English to make it sound like a real story we are sharing. This will help our listeners hear how we connect different ideas together using simple transition words like then and after that or so.
Okay, so usually I wake up around 7, and the first thing I do is stumble into the kitchen to make a big pot of coffee because I can't function without it. Then I usually check my phone for a few minutes to see if I have any messages from my family or friends before I start getting dressed for the day. It is a very slow process because I am definitely not a morning person and I need time to wake up.